The Soviet Union's MiG-25 was bad news for the US, and so they got back to the drawing board and shortly realized that the F-15 Eagle is still the deadliest fighter jet in the world. How does it beat the Soviets' deadliest? Well, watch ahead to find out. In July 1967, the Soviet Union unveiled a new fighter aircraft that raised concerns and caused alarm in the United States. This aircraft, known as the Fox-Bat, appeared to be a formidable superfighter with capabilities beyond anything currently in the American operational inventory. It was believed to possess air-to-air and long-range air-to-surface missile capabilities and could reach speeds of up to Mach 3. The United States, engaged in a fierce struggle for air superiority with the Soviets, realized that their existing aircraft were ill-equipped to effectively counter the threat posed by the Fox-Bat. To address this challenge, the United States embarked on the development of a remarkable fighter jet that would go down in history as one of the greatest ever created. The transformation in fighter aircraft design had begun in the 1950s when advancements in technology such as powerful radar and guided missiles indicated the future air battles would take place beyond visual range. As a result, the focus shifted away from light and agile jets designed for close-range dogfighting like the F-86 and MiG-15 of the Korean War, and towards faster, heavily armed aircraft capable of carrying sophisticated radar systems and missiles. The belief arose that dogfighting had become obsolete. However, in the Vietnam War, the new approach faced challenges and unexpected outcomes. The performance of the Air Force's aircraft did not align with initial expectations. The skies over Vietnam during the war were characterized by a chaotic mix of enemy and friendly aircraft. The advanced systems intended to aid Air Force pilots in identifying the enemy proved unreliable, forcing pilots to rely on visual confirmation by getting in close to each target. The concept of engaging from a distance proved ineffective, as the new F-4 Phantoms were unexpectedly drawn into close quarters dogfights against more agile MiG aircraft. The pilots of the Phantoms were not trained for such scenarios, and the guided missiles on the F-4s were found to be highly inaccurate, with only 14% hitting their intended targets. Moreover, the F-4 lacked an onboard gun for close combat, leaving pilots defenseless when the missiles failed. The larger and less maneuverable Phantoms with their distinct smoky engines were easily detected by the more agile MiGs who had exploited their vulnerability. Although the F-4 managed to hold its own to some extent, it was apparent that being an interceptor used as a fighter, it struggled to compete with an aircraft specifically designed as a fighter. The high rate of downed American pilots highlighted that dogfighting remained a significant factor in air combat, prompting the Air Force to make temporary modifications such as mounting Gatling guns, pods, and training pilots for engaging MiGs. However, these were regarded as temporary solutions to address the challenges faced during that period. Recognizing the need for a dedicated air superiority fighter, the US Air Force scrapped its earlier fighter concepts, which were deemed too large, heavy, and unsuitable compared to the Phantom. The urgency increased when the Soviet Union unveiled a new fighter aircraft that differed significantly from the MiGs encountered in Vietnam, suggesting extreme maneuverability, twin tails, a massive wingspan, and powerful engines. Suspected to utilize advanced lightweight materials, improved radar and weapon systems, the Soviet fighter set new world records for speed and altitude. With no existing fighter capable of consistently countering this threat, the Air Force shifted its focus to developing a cutting-edge air superiority fighter. In 1968, leading US aircraft designers were invited to submit proposals based on the concept of energy maneuverability, a mathematical formula evaluating a fighter's overall performance in terms of speed, thrust, drag, and weight. In December 1969, McDonnell Douglas was awarded the contract to build the new fighter, resulting in the development of the F-15 Eagle. The F-15 was meticulously designed for tactical dominance in any airspace, featuring two afterburning turbofans that provided a combined thrust of 48,000 pounds, enabling it to break the sound barrier and achieve a top speed of over Mach 2.5. The variable air intakes and computerized air inlet control system ensured optimal airflow at different speeds and angles of attack. The F-15's low wing loading and high thrust-to-weight ratio contributed to its superior maneuverability. The cockpit was positioned high in the fuselage, offering a commanding 360-degree view, complemented by a digital heads-up display integrated with radar and avionics. Armed with 8 Sparrow and Sidewinder missiles, along with a 20mm Gatling gun capable of firing up to 6,000 rounds per minute, the F-15 provided both long-range and close-quarters combat capabilities. It boasted triple redundant hydraulics, low vulnerability flight controls, and a reinforced airframe for enhanced survivability. The first prototype of the F-15 was unveiled in June 1972, just 3 years after the contract was awarded. During extensive testing against other aircraft, including the heavy F-4 Phantom, the F-15 showcased its superiority, easily outperforming the interceptors it was pitted against. Despite the F-15's remarkable performance, even the smaller and lighter F-5 aircraft used to simulate agile MiG fighters struggled to outmaneuver the F-15. The F-15 consistently demonstrated overwhelming advantages in engagements, whether beyond visual range or in close dogfights. With a true air superiority fighter in their arsenal, the US Air Force aimed to send a message to the Soviet Union. Just a year and a half prior, the Soviets had set new time-to-climb world records with the MiG-25. However, the F-15 was poised to surpass them. In 1975, a specifically modified F-15 stripped of non-essential components and even its paint to reduce weight performed a series of climbs in North Dakota, reaching altitudes as high as 30 kilometers, breaking the MiG's records by over 25%. By 1974, mass production of the F-15 was underway. With over 400 early models ordered for the US Air Force, foreign countries including Israel, Japan, and Saudi Arabia eagerly sought to acquire the F-15. The development of F-15s to West German air bases close to the Soviet Union heightened the anticipation of a potential showdown with the MiG-25. In 1976, the Americans finally had a first-hand encounter with the Soviet Union superfighter, but it's not what they had expected. Lieutenant Viktor Belenko, a Soviet Air Defense Forces pilot, made a daring escape by secretly flying his MiG-25 from a Soviet airbase in the Far East to a civilian airport in Japan, providing the Americans with a unique opportunity to examine the Soviet aircraft. After years of secrecy, the United States finally had the opportunity to closely examine the MiG-25 Foxbat and compare it to their own F-15. Despite the similar size, the two aircraft had very little in common. The Foxbat was constructed mainly from heavy nickel steel alloy, making it nearly twice as heavy as the F-15. Its large wings were not designed for agility, but rather to support its massive weight and allow it to take off. The MiG-25's maneuverability was limited, capable of only 4.5 G maneuver, while the F-15 surpassed that capability. Most of the Foxbat's weight came from its fuel, as it required a significant amount to sustain its enormous engines. However, its combat radius was only about 300 kilometers. The MiG-25's avionics relied on outdated vacuum tubes, and its radar lacked the ability to detect aircraft flying below its horizon, such as an F-15. Contrary to the fears of being a formidable dogfighting adversary, the MiG-25 was primarily designed as a high-altitude interceptor with the goal of reaching incredible speeds to catch enemy bombers. Its capabilities were limited to this specific role. The Soviet Union had deliberately kept the Foxbat's true capabilities a secret, leveraging its propaganda value and the alarm it caused among the Americans. However, they now faced their own concerns, as in 1976 they had no fighter aircraft that stood a chance against the F-15 in a dogfight. The F-15 quickly proved its superiority, achieving its first victories in 1979 when Israeli pilots downed 4 Syrian MiG-21s in a single engagement. Over the years, the F-15 continued to dominate air battles, consistently clearing the skies of adversaries. Its record is unparalleled, with over 100 victories and no defeats, making it the most successful fighter in history. The F-15's success led to the development of improved variants, including the C and D models, which enhanced range, payload, and weapons systems. When initially conceived as an air superiority fighter, the F-15 evolved into a formidable ground attack aircraft, leveraging its range, speed, and payload. Today, nearly half a century after its first flight, the F-15 remains a vital asset to the US Air Force. The introduction of the F-15EX, a thoroughly modernized replacement for the F-15C, starting in 2021, ensures that the legacy of this exceptional fighter continues. In January 1991, the MiG-25 and F-15 clashed over Baghdad, surprising everyone with the unexpected outcome. While the MiG-25 lacked maneuverability, it compensated with incredible speed, making it the fastest fighter at the time. The Iraqis capitalized on this advantage and devised a daring plan to ambush the patrolling F-15 Eagles, and that brings us to the end of our episodes today. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to us to stay updated on our uploads. Have a good day.